Greetings, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us at Space Cowboy Books Online. I am your host, Jean-Paul Garnier, and we are here for Flash Science Fiction Night with featured readers Eugen Bacon, F.J. Bergmann, and Tara Campbell. We're going to start off the evening with a story called Industrial Pleasure from Eugen Bacon. Eugen is an African-Australian author. She's a Solstice, British Fantasy, Locus, and Forward Indies Award winner, a twice World Fantasy and Shirley Jackson Award finalist, and finalist in the Philip K. Dick and Ignite Awards and the NOMO Awards for Speculative Fiction by Africans. Eugen is an Otherwise Fellow who is also announced in the honor list for doing exciting work in gender and speculative fiction. Danged Black Thing made the Otherwise Award honor list as a sharp collection of Afro-Surrealist work. I'm going to hand it over to her to read Industrial Pleasure.
Thank you so much, Jean-Paul. Industrial Pleasure is a flash fiction that appeared in Chasing Whispers, a collection of Afro-Iriel short stories. A tiny disclaimer warning: the content may be a little bit rated. It's a cheeky story on the evolution of technology. Industrial Pleasure. 1. The demand. Mayasa has had it. She's far too long been cleaning ovens, wiping racks, shelving pots, throwing contaminated food preparation containers, handling grumpy chefs, sour oven knives and non-stick pans. As if that's not all, the restaurant is just one gig. There are the toilets, her hands wrist deep, scrubbing feces from the throne with a brush. Then the sound of falling water, folding napkins, arranging shampoos, body wash, lotions that claim to be organic but really aren't. The best you get is beeswax, almond oil, maybe goat's milk. And what about the hotel rooms? Emptying waste baskets, heaven forbid. You don't want to know the things rich people chuck. Once she found a laptop. Sure, it was broken, but still. Mayasa is done. Pushing trolleys, spilling with plated towels, lining tissues, placing beer, wine, and baby bottles of still water in mini refrigerators, fluffing goose feather pillows that hold too many secrets of slaughtered memories. Her income seriously undermines her expenditure. Too little exposure to sunlight here, she's thinking. Her dark skin needs more. And the tax deduction on her payslips, every single one of them, is robbery. She feels rage, and for a moment a deep and terrible sadness. But the answer to her financial complications is right here. She is looking at it. The setup. Hunkering for money? That's all in the past, the ad says. Mayasa looks and looks at the ad. Being suspicious is a normal part of being a migrant. You don't land a safe foot in the unknown without hosting suspicion. At the reception, a girl says, "Why are you here?" "I need money," says Mayasa. "I get you. You'll have it," says the girl. "But first, some questions. Any health conditions?" "Joylessness." "Allergies?" "Damn fuckheads." The damn fool with a slow pen is asking questions from the back of a van that's a mobile office in an abandoned car park at the outskirts of the city. Shipping containers litter the vacant lot. "Do you like intercourse?" "A lot, but I ditched a few idiots, so I'm not getting any." "Do you get orgasms?" "You want to give me some?" The girl's chewing and deadpan stare is annoying. "Something like that," she says. "A bit reverse," says Mayasa. "Normally I give it, but I am not a hooker. Now let's stop fogging around and get to the point. Where is the money and what must I do to get it?" The girl points at the first container painted white. I had my suspicions at the company name, Tantralastic, if this is some stupid con. Next, says the girl, and looks at the all-female queue. The supply. Mayasa has no clue why they want her to wear a transparent floor that resembles a kimono, and she's not sure she likes the arrangement after signing the forms. The container is partitioned, and there are grunts, groans, gasps, and guggles coming from the cubicles. But the sight of a woman, not a man, is reassuring, unless the charlatan is a madame who will usher potential clients. Tea? The woman says. I like the African one, rooibos, 3 sugars and milk. We don't have that one, but I can offer you piper mystica, vistelastis, or elixir. What's in them? Asks Mayasa. Yamroot, mushroom, lavender. I'll take the yamroot. Excellent choice. You need to relax. What I need is money. And you'll get it. But I don't want plugs and wands and bullets or lubes. There's none of that here. I need you to lie face down, legs splayed on the drum. Are you recording me in X-ray and I'll find myself all over the dark web? No. What are these cables? I'll attach some to your head. Will it hurt? No. Like this. See? It's okay, I guess. Told you. Now the goggles. Here you go. Good. Finally, let's fit these bracelets. Perfect. What do you need me to do? Asks Mayasa. Use your deepest desire to catch the wave, the woman says, and dims the lights. At first, the illumination is too much. Then Mayasa sees the radiant gold of a provocative African sun against the backdrop of a regal thorn tree. She feels the gentle wind of the savannah rustling grasslands in the wake of a cheetah's chase. She hums with the moon in its sacred beauty that summons a tidal wave. The sun, the wind, the moon, each in turn caresses the longing on Mayasa's tremulous lips, her packed up breasts, her opening thighs. She wraps her legs around the drum. Oh, right there. Yes. The recycling. Check your bank account, the woman says when Mayasa wakes. We've transferred the money. Who cares about the money? Can I do the wave again? Oh, you won't be having orgasms for a while. What? It's here in the fine print. It's not forever, don't panic. Just a small side effect. You're not impaired. We harvest a few years' worth of potential organisms. Do you know how much energy a woman releases during her climax? You are a dynamo, and thank you. For what? Think of your contribution to climate change, participating in this revolutionary source of renewable energy that's naturally replenishable and sustainable to the planet. Not only that, it nourishes your deepest self. How do you feel now? Ah, wonderful. Good. And when you miss that orgasm, think of the jeopardy in fossil fuels you've saved future generations. Ah, is there a limit to technology? Mayasa asks, even knowing the question is rhetorical. Frankly, no. Why am I even afraid to ask? Says Mayasa. It's fine. What's in the pipeline is nothing harmful. Tantra Lastic wants to be at the fore with competitive superiority to tap an endless possibility. We're refining technology and will start trials with male participants. Mayasa raises her eyebrow. The hell? The woman shrugs. Organic lotions, protein supplements, recycled water. Like I said, endless possibilities. The end.
Thank you so much, Eugen. Next up, we have F.J. Bergmann. F.J. is the poetry editor for Weird House Press and Mobius, the Journal of Social Change. She lives in Wisconsin and fantasizes about tragedies on or near exoplanets. Her work has appeared in genre venues and places that should have known better. She is a Science Fiction and Fantasy Poetry Association Grand Master and Writers of the Future winner. She likes to ride horses. She's pretty sure she'd like to ride unicorns, if they'd only cooperate. She thinks imagination can compensate for anything. FJ is going to read us a story entitled Mirror.
Mirror. They called it Little Mirror on the county maps. It didn't show up on the state maps, ever. It was way out in the backwoods on my grandfather's farm, 640 acres until everything got busted up and went to hell in the Depression. The land was junk then, too. Never did any good. Too wet and sour. The water showed up as a round circle on the old township map. Little Mirror Lake in that fine script next to it, but the real shape changed every year, like a reflection in a carnival funhouse. As the years filled it in, the marsh spread, and the tamaracks rotted and fell. I heard it's public wetlands now. When I was just a kid, I found a small round mirror along the state highway once, probably out of some lady's makeup bag, and I carried it around in my pocket. Still got it. At night, after Dad had drunk enough so I could be pretty sure he wouldn't wake up and come into my room, I'd read with a flashlight under the blanket about others out there in space, and I felt more like them than like me. I started signaling every clear night, using the mirror to flick a code of flashes at the black sky, way faster than I could thumb the flashlight's stiff, clumsy switch, hoping somebody might see the pattern and recognize a distress call. Get me out of here. The noise wasn't as loud as you would have expected. I heard it in the quiet backroads night, but I don't think anybody else did, except our dog. Rusty howled for days till Dad kicked his ribs in and he died. Dad always said my mom ran off with some man when I was little. I can't remember her at all. The trees were thick back then around the shallow bowl of the lake. Nobody else ever came around. Dad kept Grandpa's old shotgun loaded with rock salt. I never had much luck with friends, even after Dad had the accident with that same gun. I had paths through the brush where nobody'd follow me, and I went looking the next day. It didn't take long to find with the broken branches and torn off leaves, but the ship had slid into the undergrowth quite a ways. Nobody could have seen it. It wasn't shiny anywhere at all, but wrecked and burnt black and pitted with holes like canker sores. The door was open, but there wasn't any light, and it smelled funny. I never went in there. It didn't seem right. There used to be water lilies at that end of the lake. That ship didn't look big enough to hold more than just the one anyway. The ground was too soft to plow, and that scrub grows fast if you don't bush hog it. He'd made it as far as the edge of the lake and was lying half under where the water opened to reflect the sky. I think it was a he. The shell around the middle might have been skin or clothes. I never tried to open it. His surface was slick like a frog, except where the sun had been hitting him, and the part of him that was torn open was in the water, but wherever the water met his body, the beautiful colors were already leaching and faded. There was a couple of dying bluegill on the bank. They never were worth the eating anyhow. Not much more dark liquid, rusty, came from the wound when I lifted him. It smelled like copper and lightning. Where I touched him, my fingers burned and oozed, but they finally healed, and you can hardly notice the marks anymore. He wasn't heavy at all, and I didn't see any metal. He was smooth, like horn or plastic, kind of spongy underneath. Not so different from anybody else, as far as I know. I held the mirror to the opening in his face for a long time, but it stayed clear and dark. Then I slid the rest of him, the rest of the way into the lake, and he drifted down into the black mud and was gone under the glittering mirror. I put him in the lake. He was trying to get there. On the surface were only the water lilies, hanging in an upside-down heaven. I never dumped anything into that lake that didn't belong.
Thank you so much, FJ. Next up, we have Tara Campbell. Tara is a writer, teacher, and fiction co-editor at Barrel House. Publication credits include Master's Review, Wig Leaf, Electric Literature, Craft Literary, Uncharted Magazine, Daily Science Fiction, Strange Horizons, and Escape Pod, Artemis Rising. She's the author of 2 novels, 2 hybrid collections, and 2 short story collections. Her latest novel, City of Dancing Gargoyles, was a finalist for the 2025 Philip K. Dick Award, and she's going to be sharing a story called Date Night.
Thank you so much for having me here tonight and, putting me together with these amazing stories, amazing writers. I'm going to be reading Date Night. This was published in Astrolabe in December 2023. Date Night. It was the perfect table next to a window, candlelight flickering, casting a warm glow over the white tablecloth. Neither Audrey nor Nick could have imagined that after spending decades on the moon, they'd one day be sitting together in a cozy French restaurant in Orlando. Decades ago, they'd flown boldly into space in the first wave of lunar colonists. Now they stole fleeting glances at one another while fiddling with their silverware, taking frequent sips from their tumblers of bourbon. Audrey gazed out the window, noting a little rush in her head as she looked up. She shouldn't have ordered wine with the imminent entree. It feels strange to look at the moon now, don't you think, after living there so long? Nick's eyes lingered on her. He was still reconciling the chestnut-haired woman he'd first met in mission training with the silver-haired knockout sitting across from him now. Yeah, he said, finally looking up at the waxing crescent above the skyline. Never thought I'd want to leave. She turned her attention back to him. Why did you decide to come back? She felt strange having to ask. They should have known each other better by now. Then again, their duties hadn't really overlapped, and they'd lost track of each other during the rapid expansion of the colony. I don't know, he said. His eyebrows lowered briefly. Then he shook his head as though clearing cobwebs. It just felt like time. She reached for her bourbon, then remembered to pace herself and settled for running a fingertip around the rim. Same here. It's hard to explain. I'd planned to stay up there until, well, me too. He rubbed his beard, hoping its sprinkling of gray didn't make him look too washed up. She found it made him look distinguished, like a silver fox. Dinner came along with more glasses of wine, and as they talked, they found they had more in common than they'd thought. They'd returned to Earth around the same time 5 years earlier. Each of them had wound up back in their respective hometowns before discovering they didn't feel like home anymore. Somehow, each of them had been drawn to Orlando, as though craving proximity to the Kennedy Space Center. As pioneers of moon colonization, they'd both written books and traveled the talk circuit, waved from parade floats, visited dozens of schools, shaken hands with any number of local and national dignitaries. Yet they both felt like there was something off about it, like they were imperialist icons being paraded about, some fetishized vanguard of an invasion of the moon. They felt immense relief admitting this out loud, expressing thoughts that felt so true yet so disloyal, giving voice to feelings that had been building up inside them since their return to Earth. She sighed, shaking her head. I guess it's just in us, as a species. But you know what I can't figure out, he asked. Remember when we first got there? We weren't supposed to come back. I know, she said. Used to be, Lunar Command would have tossed you out of the office for asking, much less forward the request. Now it seems like they just go ahead and grant it. So what changed? They both frowned slightly, as though trying to recall something at the edge of their memories. Dessert came, courtesy of the manager for such distinguished guests. At least there are plenty of replacements, she said, digging in. Lots of qualified people never got a chance before. Now they can go. And come back, he said. And we'll send more, as long as Congress keeps funding the rotating door to the moon. None of the senators I've met seem to mind the cost, she said. Well, who could say no to you? He laid down his spoon, dessert untouched. So, would you like to... He floundered, wondering what was possessing him to be so direct. Yes, she said, surprising herself. This wasn't like her. Her usual timing was like starlight reaching Earth. By the time she felt comfortable enough to get close to someone, their interest in her had long since died out. The trip to his apartment was a blur of kissing, fogging up the windows of the self-driving car, stumbling over the threshold while peeling off coats. Still standing, they snaked fingers past buttons and zippers until... Wait. She felt something strange. She pulled back to look at him. His beard was moving, growing. She stepped back to observe it lengthening before her eyes, wondering why she wasn't the least bit afraid. He, for his part, observed her silvery hair rising until it was horizontal, reaching out toward him. They thought absently about notifying someone. Surely the medical team would want to know. But suddenly nothing seemed all that urgent to either one of them. The silver tendrils wavered toward one another, touched, twined. After so many years apart, traveling this new planet in separate bodies so far from home, reaching out to even more bodies with all the handshakes and dinners and conferences and speeches, spreading bits of themselves to flourish and grow, the counter-invaders finally had an evening to themselves. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tara. That was Tara Campbell with Date Night. Before that, you heard F.J. Bergmann with Mirror, and opening the program was Eugen Bacon with Industrial Pleasure. Wonderful stories all. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for reading, and thank you to our audience. This concludes the 2025 Flash Science Fiction Night season, and we will be back next year from April to September with more brief science fiction stories. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a wonderful night or day, depending on where you are.